Last week, FX released a banger new show, Shogun, which focuses on the intricate power dynamics of feudal Japan. The first 2 riveting episodes introduced the key players in this subtle yet intense battle for dominance. While Lords Toranaga, Ishido, Kiyama, Sugiyama, and Ono are vying for power, an English Protestant comes in with his half-dead crew seeking to expand his influence, only to find that they were not exactly welcomed in Japan, as the Catholic Portuguese have already established their presence. This helps John realize the potential threat they pose as they seek control over Japan. So, in a savvy move to gain favor, John decides to alert his captors Toranaga and Yabushige to the true nature of the Portuguese agenda, who, with their facade of meekness, are secretly advancing their own interests under the guise of spreading their faith. Of course, this backfires as it understandably ruffles feathers among the Portuguese and Christian regents, who brazenly attempted to assassinate John while he was a guest in Toranaga's residence. Thankfully, the assassination failed, but now all eyes are on Toranaga, who finally realizes that it's time for him to escape Osaka. So without wasting more time, let's see how episode 3 intertwines John's fate with Toranaga's. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you, and let's begin.
Because death can come for us at any moment.
It was Yabushige who hired John Blackthorne's assassin. Episode 3 of Shogun begins with a scene of Yabushige feeling the weight of impending danger and writing his will because he was summoned by Toranaga after the failed assassination attempt on John Blackthorne. Yabushige's apprehension is palpable, fearing that this encounter may seal his fate for good. Now, Toranaga is most definitely a smart leader because we don't see him losing his calm. Instead, he asks Yabushige what Ishido had offered him in return for betraying Toranaga. He mentions how Ishido gave him the tempting offer of Toranaga's seat on the Council of Regents, even if he did not care for it. Toranaga, being the cunning strategist he is, used this loophole to his benefit by offering Yabushige to expand his fief into the Suruga province while being allowed to keep his head. But of course, he had a condition. Yabushige would be spared only if he could ensure the safety of Lady Kiri and John Blackthorne by bringing them to his fishing village in Ajiro. Of course, Yabushige agrees, and well, till this point, it seems everyone is getting what they want. John helps Toranaga keep up the ruse. The Portuguese Captain General Ferreira finds his plans to leave Osaka and go to Macau thwarted by Toranaga's decisive orders, which signals a shift in Japan's trade dynamics after Blackthorne has ratted them out. So, with Toranaga's keen awareness of the Portuguese agenda, the hot-headed captain is determined to sever ties with them. When Tsuji, or the father visitor, tries to reason with him and asks him to follow protocol, Ferreira asserts his allegiance to the crown over the church or any Japanese authority, vowing to leave regardless of Toranaga's commands. Meanwhile, Rodriguez, the sailor who was rescued by John Blackthorne, realizes that John is still alive and is manipulating Toranaga to undermine the Portuguese from setting their hold on the Japanese market. The spotlight then turns to John, who was hurt from the assassin's attack and is recovering under Mariko's care. When Mariko asks John about his children, their moment is abruptly interrupted by Mariko's husband, Buntaro. While he arrived with the news of their imminent departure for Ajiro, John quickly sensed the tension between Mariko and her husband, clearly getting a whiff of their strained marriage. Now, with no disrespect to Shinosuke Abe's portrayal, there's an undeniable air about Buntaro that makes him the most punchable face in the show. Just his presence injects an uncomfortable, toxic masculine energy, which really makes him hard to like. Anyways, the scene jumps to Yabushige, who is adorned with the most intricate live-action samurai headgear you could ever imagine, and is seen wasting no time in preparing his armed escort party to accompany Lady Kiri, Fuji, Mariko's assistants, and John to Ajiro. All of a sudden, we see Mariko's son come and hug his mother, expressing his reluctance for her to leave. While Mariko attempts to soothe her son's fears, Buntaro straight up abuses him, giving us yet another reason to hate him. Although he is one of the highest-ranking samurais in Toranaga's crew, it is still not enough to ignore the despicable human being that he is. Alright, so circling back, as everyone else thought that Toranaga remained in Osaka to confront Ishido, the group packs up everything and is just about to leave, but gets stopped by Ishido and his crew, who is personally here to inspect the Japanese palanquins, or norimono, after hearing that the English barbarian is also leaving with them. Although Toranaga's son wreaks a bit of chaos, Hiromatsu ensures that the inspection proceeds smoothly. However, the real drama begins when a heavily pregnant Shizu starts screaming in pain. only to create a distraction, allowing Toranaga to secretly slip into the carriage occupied by his wife, Lady Kire. John quietly observes this only to realize that only a select few are privy to this part of the plan, while the majority remain in the dark. Now, Ishido asks his men to escort Yabushige and the entire posse to the harbor, but they are again stopped at another exit, where their crew had to be inspected for the second time. This is where John comes in handy to maintain the illusion. He throws a theatrical fit during the inspection of the Norimono by accusing these men of being perverts for looking into a lady's private space in broad daylight. And when this was happening, Buntaro simply stood there mocking John's barbarian stupidity without having a single clue of how John was simply trying to save their master. While Mariko tries to translate John's ramblings, it does prove successful in diverting attention away from Toranaga's Norimono, allowing him to escape Osaka. Amidst this chaos, Yabushige's allegiance appears to be in question. While outwardly appearing loyal to Toranaga, we see him telling Ishido's men that he was escorting Toranaga's crew out of his pledge of duty towards Toranaga. This suggests that he may be playing a double game and simply biding his time to determine the most advantageous path forward for him. The ruse is up and Buntaro is probably dead. Under the darkness of the night, Yabushige steers the convoy towards the docks in order to get to Ajiro as swiftly as possible. While the crew was walking, John and Mariko engaged in casual conversation, providing us a brief respite from the tension, subtly hinting once more that Buntaro isn't the ideal partner for Mariko. John and Mariko talk about their children, and this is when Mariko's affection for her son shines through, implying that he was the only reason why she was sustaining Buntaro's abuse in the first place. As for John, he mentions having 2 kids, Tudor and Elizabeth, but remains tight-lipped about his wife. Sadly, the reason remains a mystery as the convoy is suddenly ambushed by Lord Kiyama's men who launch a vicious attack, confirming once again that he is indeed the mastermind pulling all the strings behind the attempts on John's life all along. Lord Kiyama's thirst for John's blood is so intense that he doesn't even mind taking down Ishido's men in the crossfire. Naturally, a chaotic battle erupts, making it hard to keep track of who's fighting who. Amidst the kerfuffle, the Norimono Toranaga was caught in a crossfire, prompting Mariko to help who she thought was Lady Kiri. To everyone's surprise, it was their Lord Toranaga securing himself an escape out of Osaka at the dead of night. Everyone was shocked, including Toranaga's son, Yabushige and Buntaro. Soon the ruse was up, prompting Ishido's men to attack Toranaga's crew. Even Mariko and John get down to fight with their swords while making sure Toranaga is safe. In the end, Toranaga, Yabushige, John, Fuji, and Mariko managed to reach the docks while Buntaro and some samurai hold off Kiyama's forces. Upon arrival, John reconnects with the sailor who accompanied him from Ajiro to Osaka and asks him to help Toranaga's group in boarding a Japanese ship. However, Buntaro is left behind, and even though John tries to convince everyone to go back for him, Hiromatsu refuses to put anyone's life in jeopardy. Buntaro bravely stays behind, understanding the necessity of his sacrifice in order to buy time for the rest of the crew to escape, and Toranaga bows to him for one last time as a gesture of gratitude for his sacrifice. Meanwhile, Lady Mariko, along with the rest of the crew, watches with a heavy heart as Buntaro valiantly battles against overwhelming odds of hundreds of men, allowing them to slip away to safety. Although we don't witness Buntaro's demise, he is dragged into Osaka's shadows by Kiyama's men. But with the budding romance between Mariko and John in Shogun, it's likely Buntaro's character isn't really dead, and will return to stir up drama between them. So until there is a Buntaro-shaped dead body to prove me wrong, I'm banking on this dude's return. Toranaga secures himself a smooth escape to Ajiro. While at sea, John notices Kiyama's blockade of boats filled with archers poised to intercept their ship. After realizing that the Japanese ship won't be able to pass through safely, he suggests that the black ship, being larger and more robust, could clear a path for them. But the black ship is now under Captain Ferreira's hold, and the hitch is that Toranaga revoked Captain Ferreira's license to sail the ship out of Japan. This forces Toranaga to smooth things over with the Captain General to ensure their safe passage to Ajiro. Although Ferreira initially planned to defy Toranaga's orders and sail the black ship anyway, he is relieved to have the upper hand. Naturally, he demands a higher price, causing Toranaga to propose an investment of 10,000 tael silver coins for Ferreira lira in the silk trade in Macau, whilst allowing him to keep half of the profits. And while he was at it, Toranaga also negotiated with Tsuchi and the father visitor, offering to build him a church in the city of Edo in return for their help in swaying Lords Kiyama and Ono from Ishido's alignment to his cause. At first, the father visitor pretends to be shocked at the bribery attempt, but he ultimately accepts the offer, seeing it as a means to advance his Christian mission. Although both the captain and the father visitor pledges their support to Toranaga and assures him a safe passage before departing, the captain insists that Blackthorn is not welcome aboard the Black Ship, given how their respective countries are fighting. With no other choice left, Toranaga consents to their will, allowing his entire crew to board the Black Ship, breaking through the blockade. Although John is left behind on the Japanese vessel, he refuses to simply stand by and defies the agreement, deciding to escape to Ajiro alongside Toranaga. Luckily, despite Ferreira's orders to crush the Japanese ship, Rodriguez opts to let them pass in order to repay the debt he owed to John for saving his life in the past. The Council of Regents have been stumped. After the Black Ship completely razed down Kiyama's men at sea, Toranaga got away successfully. The next day, Ishido and the other regents discuss the recent events. Here, Ishido chastises Kiyama for choosing to take such an excessively violent route in Osaka. Although he is being criticized for his methods, Kiyama defends himself by pointing out that Toranaga and John slipped away right under his nose, leaving Ishido powerless. Subsequently, Ishido expresses how he could have easily dealt with John and executed him if the council had agreed to vote in favor of Toranaga's impeachment without wasting time. It would have been like killing two birds with one stone, but nobody was ready to listen to him over their brainwashed religious brains. And I must admit, Ishido does have a point, because he had effectively cornered Toranaga. It was Kiyama's botched assassination attempt which provided Toranaga with an excuse to leave Osaka under the pretense of security concerns. If Kiyama had acted rashly, Toranaga would have remained vulnerable and Ishido could have eliminated him, albeit through underhanded means. However, Ishido and Kiyama's argument is cut short by Hiromatsu, who arrives to deliver the news of Toranaga's resignation as a regent. Now, Ishido dismisses the resignation, vowing to proceed with Toranaga's impeachment and eventual execution, yet Hiromatsu interjects, pointing out that the council requires 5 votes to make any decision, and with Toranaga gone, they lack the necessary majority. Thus, the council's authority is paralyzed effectively until they find a 5th regent to replace the empty spot, which seems almost impossible. The episode ends with Toranaga dubbing John Blackthorn as Hatamoto. After reaching to safety, Toranaga makes the decision to leave the Black Ship and return to the Japanese galley. He then instructs his son to assist Yabushige in training a new regiment. It seems that Toranaga recognizes his lack of access to his official army due to his resignation from the council. Now that he has betrayed the other council members, Toranaga must build a new force of soldiers to prepare for the upcoming battle. Although Nagakado cautions Toranaga about trusting Yabushige, given that he may still be colluding with Ishido, Toranaga shuts his son up and advises him to acknowledge every possibility, only to trust himself and nobody else, even if it's his family or friends. Meanwhile, John engages in some more casual chatter with Mariko, admitting that he left his family behind over more than a year ago to sail the open seas. His dreams of a lifelong maritime adventure are nearly dashed when Toranaga presents the diaries chronicling John's exploits across the seas. However, Toranaga offers John a chance to prove himself, while he bids his time to translate the diaries from English to Japanese, giving him ample space to demonstrate that he's more than just a pirate and could add value to Toranaga's crew. Toranaga then suggests that John can begin his process by first training Toranaga's men in using the weapons found in his ship, and secondly, teaching Toranaga how to swim. John agrees on the condition that Toranaga releases his crew and ship. Although Toranaga doesn't explicitly confirm, he seems to accept John's proposal, assigning Yabushige and Nagakodo to assist him in the training. John Blackthorn accepts this unusual request without hesitation, as he has now become increasingly skilled at adapting to Japanese customs while also knowing when to bend them. Indeed, his dramatic protest about inspecting women's quarters, drawing on European chivalric ideals, played a crucial role in Toranaga's escape from Ishido's grasp while disguised in his wife's clothing. So Toranaga mentions how he can no longer be called a barbarian and honors Blackthorn with the title of Hatamoto, which is a mark of a high-ranking samurai earned through his bravery in aiding Toranaga's escape. And so the episode concludes with actors Cosmo Jarvis and Hideyuki Sanada jumping from the vessel in their underwear, racing each other to shore. Marvelous verdict. I think if you look at the entire episode, it did not quite match the excitement of its highlights. I mean, It did have a daring escape, a forest firefight, a heroic last stand, and a thrilling race at sea, but unfortunately this episode fell short in terms of action. The politics were nail-biters, no doubt, but god, I was pinning for a juicy samurai sword fight. Nonetheless, the true strength of Shogun lies in its personal moments, so I'd much rather watch the dynamic between John Blackthorne and Rodriguez as they exchange colorful insults, the unpredictable loyalty shifts of Lord Yabushige, or the ongoing emotional struggles of Fuji, who had endured the loss of her husband and baby in the name of feudal honor. Which again makes it evident that the series excels in intimate storytelling rather than large-scale action sequences. Now, according to the teaser for the upcoming episodes, Tanaga is poised to go to war with Ishido with the support of other clans and John's weapons. However, the budding romance between John and Mariko is likely to create some sort of a rift between them and Toranaga. Well, I guess we will have to wait until next week to see how events unfold in feudal Japan. Until then, let us know what you think of this show in the comment box below. And as always, if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone.